All right, let's get it, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome on into today's Union match recap as we're looking at Saturday night's Union loss up in Montreal to Club de Fou Montreal and a 3-2 loss, obviously in a thriller. This one would come all the way down to the wire. And obviously, the result is not what we all anticipated. It is very upsetting as well, considering the fact that, yes, this is a Montreal side that in three matches have not gotten a win, and in three matches have only had one shot on target. And although Montreal is playing in the Big O, which is always not, it's not easy. And yes, for a lot of people who did not know, there is a new turf surface for the Big O. And we'll definitely talk about that. But despite that factor, Montreal came in ready to play. They came in motivated, and we always talk about this. This should not be of a surprise when you are the Union, when you are the top dog, when you have been the top dog, especially in the Eastern Conference over the past couple seasons. Everyone's going to want a piece of you, including this young Montreal side who have a new manager who are trying to show their manager what they exactly have. And everyone is kind of just writing them off. Now, Hernan Losada, you may have your opinions about him, but the one thing you can't say about him, the man has a lot of pride. And so what I saw on Saturday night was a team that did not care about who was lined up on the other side. Dare I say, not to pull a Philly cliche out there, but they had the eye of the tiger. They were hungry. And for the Union, maybe they weren't ready for it. They may have responded to it. But of course, there was some interesting substitutions. There was some controversial refereeing. And at the end of the day, Montreal took advantage of the big momentum swing at the end of this game and capitalized. And that is the reason why we are walking out of the Big O without 0 points. You have to play 90 minutes. And we've talked about it, talking about the Chicago match last week. If you want to win, it doesn't matter how you get it done. You know, the old saying of the Fast and the Furious, it doesn't matter if you win by an inch or by a mile. A win is a win. And for Montreal, this is one of those type of wins that could maybe jumpstart their season. And unfortunately, it came at the hands of our boys in blue. But at the end of the day, you got to do better. And obviously, our focus is on CCL, and we still do have 2 weeks away. This was the opportunity to keep ground, because obviously when you get back into CCL play, your priority goes back to that. So this match and next week against Orlando, although be it there was going to be some obstacles within these 2 weeks, you got to go out there and you got to get the job done. And unfortunately, the Union did not take advantage of the opportunity here against a side like Montreal. But we'll talk about this match. I just want to formally welcome you guys into today's Union's match recap. As we're talking about Saturday night, March 18th, Union match against Club de Foot Montreal. In a match, the fourth match of the season for the Union, they would travel to the Big O, the Stade Olympique, to face off against Club de Fou for the first time this season, and would fall 3-2. Real quick, if you guys are enjoying this content, make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe for more Philly sports. As a reminder, we do talk Philly sports all the time on this channel, so give this channel a follow, or subscribe. I'm sorry. I'll never miss out on any of this Philly sports content. We are constantly brewing up here for you guys. This match did not start off in the favor of the Union, as we get a PK right in like the second minute of this match. Let me grab his. Unfortunately, Jakub Glesnes. Actually, before I get into, let me get to the lineups real quick. Let's not forget about that. So, obviously, no Andre Blake, and we talked about it during the preview. The hope is that he'll be back for the April 1st matchup against Sporting Kansas City. But for this match here, you had Joe Bendik again in between the pipes. We'll talk about Mr. Bendik in just a second. Your back line, pretty much intact. Kai Wagner, Jack Elliott, Jakub Glesnes, Olivier Mbaizo. Your midfield, again intact. Leon Flock at the left, and Brujo Martinez at the 6, Alejandro Bedoya at the right, Daniel Gazek at the tip of the diamond, and your two forwards will be Michael Urre and Julian Carranza. And as I mentioned, you had a early penalty kick here for Montreal. Shanshiri gets a ball that kind of squirted to him right outside the box, and he just kind of rips this bad boy. Takes a deflection off of Mbaizo's shin guard and takes a deflection off of Jakub Glesnes' arm, unfortunately. Not much really that Jakub could do there, but the ref did not give a crap. He called the penalty right away and gave the yellow card right away. And that's the way you set a tone on a match, huh? A ball that literally just deflects off. It's not like Gleznes intentionally put the arm out there, and we get a penalty kick right off the bat. So giving the home side, the underdog, the momentum right off the bat. And Romel Kyoto goes up to the spot. He's not missing that bad boy, especially against a Joe Bendik. And Bendik picks the wrong side. Kyoto buries it. It's 1-0. And just like that, the Union are under adversity. And I'll give credit to the Union during the first half. They kind of did try to turn around and create their own opportunities. I felt like they upped the I mean, it was in the second minute, but they did up the intensity right after that. And it was definitely unfortunate, but that's just kind of the way you start off the match. And it definitely threw things off for sure. However, in the second half, the Union definitely bounced back early in that second half, 46, the first minute into the second half. Michael Ure gets the ball right outside the box. It was good defense by Watermark, and Ure with a great low shot gets it right past Cyrus, and it puts the Union up, or gets the Union on the board, draws it up, a 1-1 matchup at that point. And honestly, that goal. Well, we'll talk about Ure in a second, but that was some great display of skill, if I may add there. That would tie things up, and then about 14 minutes later, off of a quick transition here. At the midfield, Gazdak gets the ball, kind of volleys it up in the air for Michael Ure to kind of go out there and win. And off of a breakaway, Ure loves the breakaway. Ure flourishes off of a breakaway, and not much the Siders could do on that one. Low shot, Ure put it right on the spot, and that would put the Union up for the first time in this match, 2-1. And with that beautiful display of a goal, a great teamwork, especially the connection between Gazak and Ure, you're thinking to yourself, we got this. There's no way in possible hell that the Philadelphia Union are going to squander this lead. Because first off, that was a beautiful, beautiful goal, may I add. But it's Montreal. It's a side who struggles on the attack, obviously. And it's not going to happen. Now, one thing I would do want to mention. So after that, you get, unfortunately, a yellow card, a second yellow card to Julian Carranza. It was a valid yellow card because he was a terrible challenge, to be quite honest with you, by Julian Carranza. But the first yellow that he got was a little bit of a BS call. So, unfortunately, it is what it is, but the Union had to play with 10 men with 20 minutes left. Now, you are up, so the thought is you just bunker down and you just you put everyone down in the put all 10 defenders out on the on the back end. But then you had interesting substitutions. So Jim decided to take Urre out and put Chris Donovan, and then he puts in Andres Pereira for Daniel Gazak. That's not terrible. Obviously, more defensive-minded guys in there, so not terrible. Then Montreal put out 4 subs. Ibrahim for Zohir, Ofer for Mason Toy. We'll talk about that in a second. Bralit Gouliard, I believe I'm saying that. If I'm not, I do apologize. For Lapalainen, our old friend. And then Thorklesen for Kamal Miller, who, by the way, I do realize that he was able to be fit. He was on the injury list, and he was able to play in this one. I fully believed he would not play, and that was a big one, but he would get subbed. The big one, though, here's the interesting one. So we decide to take Alejandro Bedoya away and put in Damian Lowe, and I thought Ali played a solid match, but you take away kind of that mid-block, and that's where I thought things were a little bit interesting. And then this is where all the shenanigans that took place. So we got to talk about the Christian 04 goal, right? So it's a cross in, and they I forget who takes the first shot. I believe it was 04. I'll double check here, but first shot, Bendik saves, rebound, Ofer comes in and buries that bad boy. They call offsides on the play. They go to VAR. They rule it offsides. And then the craziest thing happens. They go back to the VAR and review this thing because the referee got some word from his earpiece to go review it again. And look, I've been a very neutral VAR guy. I understand that there's still a human element to VAR, and you're not always going to get it perfect. But the one thing I would say, I would much rather them fuck it up on the first try than to go back to it. It doesn't matter whose side I'm on. This is about the league. This is about how we look as a league. By this referee going back to VAR to review this play that he already deemed offsides is a terrible, terrible look for MLS refereeing. It just flat out is. It doesn't matter if you're a Montreal fan or if you're a Philadelphia fan. That is a terrible look for our league. You cannot go back to VAR after you ruled it offsides. You gotta bite the bullet. You gotta bite the bullet, and you gotta apologize after the game. And this is why I always say that referees in sports need to be held more accountable. They don't need to be taking press conferences like I've always hear. But yes, on a play like a situation like this, there has to be some type of discipline. You cannot go twice to VAR. You look inept. You look like an idiot. It just can't. It flat out cannot happen. At the end of the day, 0-4 was onside. I don't know how you didn't see it on the first, because Kai Wagner, if you look at Kai Wagner low to our screen, he kept 0-4 onside. So the onside was correct, but going back to VAR was incorrect, and that just makes us all look bad. So this is something that we just need to continue. So it is what it is. It's a 2-2 game. You're on the road. You take the point. Flat out, you're just going to take the point. You're not going to think of anything else. But unfortunately, here for the Union, Montreal had other plans, and with that 0-4 goal, momentum was fully on Montreal's side. All right, so really not much that the Union can do. And then of course, you get the Chanchery, who had a really good match here for Montreal, crosses the ball in the 98th minute. This is literally the last minute of the match. And who else but Romel Kyoto to beat out who else but Olivier Mbaizo, and he gets a clean shot. Bendik stretching out. He's not stopping this fucking ball. And Kyoto gets Montreal erupted, bro. Like it was a good scene. Obviously, like you think you guys know me. I always look at things on both sides. You think of Montreal, the year that they had last year, and then the team gets ripped apart. They're going into the season like not I want to say not caring, but they're obviously they're feeling a little down on their club because they lost literally like the entire club. It's a completely new look, and you have one of the club stalwarts in Romel Kyoto just absolutely buries a goal to give Montreal its home opening win and first win of the season. And this is a side that's obviously struggled a lot. So if you look at it, the Montreal side, this was a humongous victory for them. And Hernan Losala's era, this is how they want to start it off, especially at home. And that's great. And Montreal definitely showed up to play. I talked about it earlier. The eye of the tiger was definitely there. Good for them. Now, how do we look at it as Uni fans? Look, I understand that a lot of us in Philadelphia, I'm not going to say Philadelphia Uni fans, but in Philadelphia, we look at a loss like this and we think it's absolutely despicable. It's a disgrace to us as fans. Everything you can put out there. It's just embarrassing, right? The way I look at this loss is you got your ass kicked again. All right, this has not been a good start to the season, and we all realize this. I mean, you shouldn't be losing to Miami in Miami 2-0, and obviously we're still going to figure out what exactly Miami is, as they lost to Toronto yesterday 2-0. You can't win in the way I know it sounds crazy, but winning in the way you did against Chicago. Also, Chicago, another bad team who had a 3-1 lead yesterday against Cincinnati, allow that to kind of dwindle away and take a point away at home against Cincinnati. You get a last-second heroic goal by Joaquin Torres, and that's fantastic and all, but allowing Chicago to hang with you for 90 minutes was a problem, especially with 10 men. So obviously, the start of the season has not been great. There are, yes, some integral pieces. What I do find very interesting is that the younger, like the so, like, when we line up with guys like Jesus Bueno and Damian Lowe, Andres Pereira, Joaquin Torres, Jack McGlynn, Quinsel, it feels like that bunch seems to have more chemistry than the starting 11 that played in the MLS Cup final literally less than 5 months ago. And I do find that very interesting. Why is it that a group of guys who haven't really played together, why do they have more chemistry than a group of guys that have played together and played in one of the highest levels of a match in this league? It is interesting to kind of say the least. Now, if you guys remember back to my Columbus match recap, when we were actually there at Subaru Park, we talked about after the match and how the fact that the team, a lot of the players that I did mention actually, were lined up after the match and doing sprints after a win. And obviously, those guys are trying to work hard to get some minutes, but those guys also bonded in those type of situations. I'm sure that's not the only instance that situation kind of happened. So I do feel like, number one, I do think that it is mental. Obviously, losing in the way they have, it's just little mental mistakes because you should be beating Miami, Chicago, Montreal easily. And I do think that it is just the fact that it is early in the season. No one's trying to exert too much energy because it is a long season. We're not even in the summer months where it's going to be scorching hot and you're going to be running at 100 miles per hour in 90-degree weather. So I do feel like there is a little bit of that too. The one thing I will say, I'm not concerned about it, but the one thing you don't want to do is kind of fall too far down into the MLS standings. Now, this is 2 losses already in 4 matches. You have 1 win, 2 losses. I'm sorry, you have 2 wins and 2 losses, and luckily we don't have a huge draw streak. If you guys remember last year, it was like what, like 6 or 7 matches in a row that you drew. It was crazy. But that's the one thing you don't want to do. 6 points. I can pull up the standings right now. Let me pull it up on another screen. But that's like the one thing you don't want to do. You don't want to fall too far down. You want to stay up top because obviously we're going to play a lot of matches. So you want to make sure that you're staying in good length. Because you want to make it obtainable. You want to make it easier for that when you have to focus on MLS play. You're not too far back. Now, right now in the Eastern Conference, Philly is tied with 6 with Inter Miami. I think goal differential is what puts Philly on top. But obviously, Atlanta right now, it's a brand new Atlanta team. Obviously, every year you look at Atlanta and it's like, oh, well, they might be back this year. But I actually do look like they are back. I mean, they're scoring goals I think they put up 5 against Portland yesterday. They put 3 against Charlotte last week. So obviously, it does seem like they are ready to play. You got New England in second and 9. I don't know how much longer New England's going to be up there, but you just want to stay in pace with the rest of the league, and that's all you really can ask for here from this side. But it is a rough loss. It really is. And Jim will tell you the same shit. I mean, Jim said it in the press conference. It was a literal shit show. So what he said, it was a literal shit show. But despite the yellow cards that resulted in a red that kicked Julian. And by the way, Julian Carranza will be out against Orlando now. So now in a match that you were shorthanded, you were even more shorthanded thanks to the refereeing in this match. So Julian Carranza, despite a Julian Carranza ejection with the red card, despite the early handball right in the second minute that put Montreal up 1-0, despite a new turf, which still honestly wasn't much better. It was better than what we had before, but not too much better. And despite VAR mishaps, you can't go to VAR twice, all right? And just despite allowing Montreal to take full momentum and allowing them to have a heroic moment at the end of the match as Kyoto buried first and last goals, remote Kyoto. Dude's a pest. I still remember when he elbowed Mark McKenzie. I still remember that. In Red Bull Arena nonetheless. So it is terrible. But yes, I'm with you guys with this loss. It definitely sucks, but still early in the season. Still a lot, and I'm talking about a lot of soccer left to be played. So hold your horses. Orlando next week, that obviously will be a tough one too. I do believe that they will also be missing quite a few players. So it's going to be another even match, I should say. And so for the Union, again, like I talked about today, it's all about keeping that mental toughness and staying strong and getting the results that we need because You got to stay afloat. You just have to straight up stay afloat. So that's going to do it here for me today. Again, Union match recap. Again, the Philadelphia Union not taking care of business, losing to Montreal 3-2, and we are off against Orlando. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Let me know in the comment section your thoughts on this match. I'll be reading these as the day goes on, so let me know your full thoughts on the match. But thank you so much for watching, guys. Until next time, I go by the name of Parcero Philly, and I'm telling you guys to do ball. Talk to you guys soon.